Welcome
I,
to
I
Take to Catch Up. I'm stoked to have Fred Bonnef, a good friend of mine, and I think one of the guys who's definitely helping push the sport forwards in downwind foiling. So Fred, thanks for coming on, and yeah, I was stoked to meet you in Madeira this year, and you're doing some good things. So thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for having me, James. Yeah, it was such a mission, no, Madeira.
Um,
Interesting mission.
yeah, we'll go into a bit more detail on it, but I want to get a bit of backstory on you, Fred. Like what give us like I don't know the last like we have a few I guess are definitely mutual friends, and I'm surprised our paths didn't cross earlier than Madeira last year. But
Yeah,
you know, tell us about your SUP racing career and the accident that happened, and then sort of how foiling came into your life.
yeah. Actually, much before the SUP race, I was really involved into sailing when I was really young. I was basically born and raised on a sailing boat. And I was born in Normandy, and with my parents we started to travel with the sailing boat, and I even had the school on the sailing boat. And I didn't have brother or sister, so it was pretty much me, myself, and the ocean most of the time. So I think that gave me a special relation with a special connection with the sea at that moment, and that's where everything started a bit for me. Then I started to get really interested in windsurfing, and and did everything to at some point become a professional in windsurfing, which didn't came from one day to the other because I didn't have any help, and my parents had to work close from Paris. I had no sea, I had nothing, so it was not like until, let's say, when I was 18 years old that I really could try to like train and get serious about it. And I was actually training at the beginning in the south of France, where the Med Glider just had their event right now. And then after I took the decision to move to Tarifa. So it was epic because I had no money. I went with my car there, and I had no sponsor, nothing, and I slept in my car for 1 year and a half until I get sponsored, and I started to do championship, to the Spanish championship, European championship, world championship. I did quite well at this moment. I had a really good result, especially on the Spanish championship, and got like from nothing to having sponsor, having a job, having and making a life in Tarifa in south of Spain, which was my dream at this period. Then if we keep on going, I did that from 2000 to 2008. In between that, in 2006, I discovered the stand-up paddling. I started stand-up paddling. Started like go SUP surfing in Morocco when the sport was not even existing in Europe. When my paddle was in wood, so you can with that I tell you everything. And I was already really interested by the crossing part of it, the adventure part of it, and by the downwind. It's 2006, 2007. So imagine. And then the SUP race event started to show up in Europe. So we had that event in Saint Maxime, which was quite famous, and we had guys from outside who came, like Chuck Patterson and guys like this at this moment, and that's where everything started and everything popped up. Like the SUP race became a thing in Europe, and then my sponsors that were sponsoring me in windsurfing, which were like Fanatic at this period, Fanatic and North, and they jumped in and told me, okay, we have to do something with SUP race. And that's when I started to go full on with SUP race. Let's say that I went a bit more serious with my SUP career than I went with my windsurfing career, which I was more, I was I always try to take the fun part of it, trying to be serious and to be a professional, but at the same time, having the feeling that it could stop at any time. And so I was, I was living the life, beside the pure competition. And in SUP race, I became a bit more serious about it and really wanted to do something. I had a European champion title in 2011. I did a top 10 in the Waterman League and stuff like this. So I was okay. I was at a decent level. Then in 2012, I had a really, really nasty car crash that almost killed me. I almost lost my leg. It was basically a truck that came in front of me in the highway, and it was not in the right direction. It was basically in the wrong direction, and it took me like full on, and yeah, well, basically I stayed in jail, no, inside the van for 3 hours and a half before the health care could take me out from the car. And I had 18 open fractures, open bones, basically. And after that, I had 15 days of coma. And to make it fast, I had 3 years of hospital and rehab beside that. And I had 35 surgeries. The longest one was 15 hours. And basically every time I was going out from the surgery, the medics were telling me that I would, or when I was going into the surgery, the medic were saying to me that I would maybe lost my leg. So it was tough moment. And I made a promise to myself that at some point I would come back to the sport in one way or the other. My let's say what I had in the heart was to come back as an athlete. But let's say the rational part was also going back as an organizer, event organizer. So I basically did both. I really focused on organizing events at the beginning when I was at the hospital. I organized like the French championship, the first real downwind that we organized in France in 2013. And then after the Mondial du Vent, which was the first, let's say, boat logistic downwind that we organized in France, and then it go on. I organized the Euro Tour and lots of other events until now. And at the same time, I managed to get podium on the Spanish championship, SUP Surf Spanish championship. Did a bit of race, a bit of long distance, did the SUP 11 city, and then went full on into downwind foiling, which I really like. That changed my life, honestly, downwind foiling, because it was like being young again or something like that, like all these pioneer moments, especially in Europe, where you had no reference, nobody, nothing, and you had to figure out everything by yourself. And yeah, until now that I finally did the Molokai and the Maui to Molokai, and I'm starting to organize the rainfall events.
Yeah, no, it's a hell of a story, Fred. And like you told me that story when we were in Madeira together, and I think in Maui in the back of the truck too, just a brief version of it. And it gives me chills down my spine, like just thinking of what you've been through. And you told me when we were in Madeira that there was you said then like there's a good chance they were going to cut your leg off, and you were having none of it. And it was a credit to you and your, I don't know, and the people around you that you've you're where you are now, and it's amazing.
It was basically there was that moment that where the doctor told me, don't make illusion to yourself. You will not go back to the sport as you want. There's no way. Physically, there's no way. physiologically there's no way. So when you have to hear that, and you're passionate as I am, and you're an athlete, and you want to make the best of your life and of your body, it's really hard to hear. And it was a long battle, but we made it.
Yeah, and good on you. Like to do Molokai Tuahu like on the foil and the Madeira challenge that we attempted to was probably even harder. It's
harder.
Yeah, it was it's a credit to you, mate, and I guess the passion that you have for the sport that you're doing, and to be running events as well. And actually, a lot of people I ran into when we were in Madeira, they were you were the windsurf legend, whereas I know you as the SUP then foil sort of legend. So you've kind of covered 3 sports in one lifetime, plus a near death experience. So yeah, that's why I wanted to get you on, but yeah, also because we're good mates as well. So yeah, thanks for sharing that story.
No worries.
Yeah, let's go into, obviously when we met was in Maui, and you were hanging with Olivia, and you were doing M2M, M2O, paddling all the what's now the Koakai Triple Crown. And tell us about your, like, a lot of people explain how hard downwind foiling is to learn, and we've had a few jokes about maybe switching stances and stuff to help you, your pumping and whatnot. But with your leg the way it is, like in your ankle, how hard was it for you to learn? And you mentioned you learned before anyone else was doing it in Europe. How was it? Go through that for us.
Well, I think everything started with the same video than everyone, with the video from Kai in 2016. The video from Kai with the half race board, and I didn't introduce myself the fact that I wanted to do it. It would be hard because I had those injuries. I was saying to myself it would be hard because it would be hard for everyone. And I jumped into it, and I forgot about the fact that I have also those troubles, but it was actually hard for everyone at this moment to learn. So we were all in the same kind of troubles, but I had maybe more troubles than others, but we were all in kind of trouble. So when I started in Tarifa, I started SUP foiling in the Basque Country, actually. With guys like Ludo Dulu, that did the Molokai several times in paddleboard, and after that I tried the downwind foiling in Tarifa, and I was waiting for days with 45 knots, small shops, and I had a 5/8 and a foil which was a kite foil. It was a Ketos foil, I think. And so it was more than hard, because I am not sure I would be able to take off that thing now. We had no idea. We saw that this moment that the shorter was the board and the better, and it was not the case. So Tarifa is a place that the downwind can be absolutely awesome, but it's also the current is an issue, and if you make mistake, you get sent to Africa, basically. So that's what happened to me at some point. I was trying hard and get caught by the current, and had to wait 4 hours that the current change and switch to be able to go back to Europe, basically. So kind of stories like this, it was really an adventure. For me, to be honest, I was going into a day of big waves. That was the same for me. I had the same feeling that, okay, you want to go, but it's gonna be an adventure. It was also, I think, one of the best moments I felt, when I managed to fly 500 meters, the first time, and then 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers. It was incredible.
Yeah, and I think you sort of touched on there, the sense of adventure. I think is what was really captured. The downwind foilers, imagination, I guess. It's not just one surf spot. It's as long as you want it to be. It seems to be. Olivia's done, almost 300 kilometers. I've done 200, and a lot of people have done like triple digit, foils, and it's
it was unbelievable at this moment. It was not, you could never have thought it would be possible at the beginning of the sport, and then here we are.
Here we are. Yeah, it's come so far, and I think we're just just at the beginning of it. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah. But to come back to my leg problem, then when I am doing that sport, and what maybe people saw the first year when I entered the Molokai is that when I have too much repetition of the same movement, like the pumping movement, there's a moment where I have 50% less of flexibility on my right ankle, and I have limitation on my knees. So but that can go worse if the movement is repeated a lot. So there was a point in the first Molokai that I could not feel my leg at all. It was like having a wood leg. And so I did quite okay to cross the channel actually from Molokai to Oahu. But then after, when I arrived to the coast of Oahu, I couldn't feel my leg basically, so I had to finish on my stomach for 3 hours and a half or something against the current, just to be able to make it. And then that same thing happened to me in the Maui to Molokai this year. At the end of the race. I was really happy with myself for for most of the race, and on the last, let's say, 15 Ks, then I started to not feel my leg anymore. But as I'm used to that situation, I finished, and it was okay. But then in my head, the Molokai to Oahu 24 hours after, it was dead. I was like, okay, there's no way you're making it. And finally, I had the protocol that I do with my doctor or my physiotherapist, and I did that protocol. There's like lots of kind of stretching and small movement that you're doing, and it worked. And I was able to do the Molokai. So I was not 100%, but I was able to do the Molokai. And so that was for me, that was awesome last year to be able to do those two races in
such close succession. Yeah.
With only 24 hours, it was for me. For me, it was a victory for me. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that I think a lot of people get a bit hung up on is. Well, they forget, like, it's obviously it's a race, but it's like what you're describing is you were stoked to have finished, like not so much stoked to have, you're not comparing yourself to others. And I think it's important that we remember that, because obviously there's a race going on and you want to beat your friends, but these crossings are legendary, and just doing it full stop is an achievement. And that's one thing that I think in some ways, I think compared to the SUP, the foiling has made it easier or shorter anyway, and I've touched on it before, but the course change has made it even easier than what it would have been, even though foil was already easier. And anyway, but the point is, these are gnarly waterways. Like, this is open ocean. This is the middle of the ocean kind of stuff.
It's a bit a do or die at some point, like I remember the first Maui to Molokai I did. I was sick. I don't know if I had COVID or something, but I was really sick. And we had no escort boat. And I was basically, okay, we start from here and you go there, I had no idea, I had no idea where I was going. Plus I had a 1,300 foil, it was, I had no idea. Honestly, maybe I didn't have the level to do it. But I did it anyway, and I did it. It was quite okay, but it was a bit a do or die. You just have to go the other way because you have no escort boat. I don't think your phone will work in the middle, so you have to do it. And that's what I said before. It's like kind of going into big waves or something like this. There's part of it that yeah, it's yeah, let's go, and
Yeah. And like doing it
it's
in a race situation is safer than doing it without the race situation because there's safety and there's other people. But at the same point, like you mentioned, like it's still like you're still out there on your more or less, especially M2M, like on your own. And you can't rely, even in
yeah,
M2M, you can't rely on anyone else.
yeah, no,
Stories from last year, escort boats didn't find people until the last couple of kilometers, so
yeah.
you're out there on your own, regardless of safety.
And plus, like the sailing now, the sailing around the world, we're using foils that are every time like smaller, and so you're taking risk because you're in a competition mode, and for that you're taking some risk, and you can explode at some point, or physically, or because your material is too small, or whatever, or because you made the wrong decision, or you took a risk to take a line which is maybe putting yourself in danger. So at the end of the day, even if you're getting better and you go faster, and you also putting yourself in in those situations, which is the reason why in the event I organize, I'm so into safety, or whatever you can do to make sure nothing will happen. But it's a reality. And it's part of the charm as well. No, it's exciting.
Yeah, if it
That's what
was
I'm looking for.
too safe and too easy, there'd be you know, no
No
reason to
excitement.
do it. Yeah.
Exactly.
The
Exactly.
better, as you said, and I think you put it really well, the better you get, the more you push, the harder you go, the smaller the foil, just like you look, what Edo did last year was just amazing on like a 600 square centimeter foil. And he was just, the course was easier, but what he was doing wasn't easier. It was very
No.
impressive.
No.
Cardio,
Yeah.
and it was strength, and it was determination.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But,
And I think the pioneer of that crossing, like with the bigger foil, it was like it was also like really hard, going with a bigger foil, not be able to follow the wave, which happened to me the first year, not be able to really follow the swell as you would like. It was like a massive commitment. So yeah, respect for the first one, that the crossing with the big foils. I think it's
pre-COVID stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's obviously we've touched a little bit on Hawaii, and we'll go into that a little bit more later. But let's talk about the Madeira challenge we did. It was the first time I spent like a lot of time with you, and we had a pretty, I'd say, pretty full-on sort of adventure. I get you to explain it.
Yeah. It was. It was a bit of jump into the unknown at the end of the day, and that's, as we said before, that's what we are looking for. We are at a point where every day you can discover a new downwind. You can go to a place that nobody has never done downwind before. That's what I'm doing in the Mediterranean Spanish coast every day. Every day I am doing almost every day I'm doing a downwind that nobody did before. So we are at that point, but being in the middle of the Atlantic, and from one place, from one small island to the other, it's another level, because actually Madeira is in the middle. It's not a coast run. You're in the middle of the Atlantic, but it's even worse than just being in the middle of the Atlantic, because you have some coast. You have the coast of the next island, which make lots of reflection, lots of counter current, lots of counter bumps. So for me personally, I never experimented a sea like this before on a foil. It's I think the closest you can compare this is maybe when you get to China World, when we were going to China World the first years, but it's not even like this, because it's bigger, first of all, and it's even more messy, I would say. I don't know what you thought about it, but
the biggest thing for me was that the wind was going the wrong direction, and the waves were going the wrong direction too, but they were different directions wrong. It was like offshore and wind that way, but we wanted to go that way. It was
and that's when I realized, because you were doing so well, and you were so in tune with the elements, and that's when I realized that you really need a small foil to be able to navigate with full speed into that thing, moving around with so much energy and yeah, that's when I realized that.
Well, even at the very beginning, it was the first part was good, but I guess one thing that for the biggest challenge for me for that was the addition of the wingers, and because the swells were so big, and the wind was okay, like it was a solid 15 at the beginning.
Yeah, it was okay.
But because the troughs were so deep, it wasn't 15 knots at the bottom of the trough, but it was a solid 15 at the peak. So to get going to the wingers was seriously difficult. Even for us on the SUP was, but we don't rely so much on wind. We can paddle. So yeah.
I have images from you that where you were disappearing between bumps, absolutely disappearing. You were in front of me like always, and you were disappearing. Yeah, it was crazy. Just sometimes I could see a small head in between bumps. It was serious. And yeah, one thing you mentioned, the heart of the wing foil. It was hard for us because even more, I think, for me personally, because I need to be in my zone to do that kind of stuff. I need to be in my rhythm, and I can't allow myself to do too much takeoff. Because the takeoff are for me, it's not for my foot is it can become painful. So for me that was the hardest, to have to wait and then start again and wait and start again. It's not something you want to do for that kind of crossing. But yeah, it was a really good adventure to be with them as well, and I have really good memories from it. So it's all good at the end. But it was tricky.
Yeah, I think those sorts of adventures in a big team, like even a team of 3 or 4 SUP downwind foilers, is hard enough. But to add another 3 or 4 wing foilers for a safety perspective is an absolute nightmare, because we had to stop a lot.
Yeah,
because the distance that we were covering for 2 boats, it was just unsafe. And at the end of the day, Tiago and I just went because we knew we were never going to make it otherwise. It was the sitting around and waiting was more dangerous than just getting to the island. It was which was
and it go into your mind also, because suddenly you realize you're in the middle of something serious, and you don't see it the same way that you're doing it when you're falling. When you're falling, there's that excitement and that will, and that that make you keep on going, and you don't even realize the nature of the situation. But when you stop and you wait for people and you look around you say, "Ooh, interesting," So I think it's bad physically and mentally. To have to stop.
And like you said, the energy to go to take off. And I remember when Tiago and I decided we're going to go for it, because it was just it was we could see the island that we're heading to, and we can see where we're going. Let's stick together as best we can. And there was one spot that you described where the energy was going every direction but the way we wanted to go, off the tip of Madeira. And Tiago and I were going along together, and then I remember him falling, and there was a moment where I'm like, do I stop and wait with him for him, or do I just keep going? And I was pretty concerned because the boat wasn't anywhere near, but I remember I made the decision to keep going because the energy was so bad that we both would have been stuck. Like I was on a 6:10, I think, which is short nowadays, very short nowadays. And I think I was on a...
you were on a really short board for that day.
So I didn't want to stop. I didn't want to, to come off I didn't want to stop. So keep going.
I understand you.
So I remember keeping going, and I was like, but I was worried about his safety and mine, because we didn't know where the boats were, and
Now, plus, I think we all know like that we all know each other. We know we are good watermen, and at the end of the day, it can be also an extra pressure to wait for somebody that is trying really hard to, to take off when he maybe need a bit of more rest. And I think it's good to be in your world when you're doing such a crossing. It's I think it's really, really important. The group thing is not really working at some point, because everybody has a different speed, and maybe
and has different moments where it's difficult.
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
times when someone's struggling and someone is not, and it's
and I know, like, I'm not worried. I did lots of crossing with Thiago, and I'm never really worried about him. I know he's such a good waterman.
Yeah,
he's really good, and I think he's the same with me. I don't think he's really afraid by leaving me. I tell him lots of time, it's my house. I feel in my house, I feel it's my living room. So I'm good here, So I think it's you did well in keep going, because at the end of the day, if you put yourself in danger also, it's even worse. So
but it's just one of those situations that really resonate with me, that for those sorts of crossings, it's you need a bigger support team if you're in a group, I think, or we had trackers, and we had a lot of safety precautions, but at the end of the day, you fall off, you hit your head, there's not much that can be done if there's no one around. Same as when you're downwind training or whatever. It's just, that's the sport we live in. That's just how it is. But yeah, it was a wild adventure. Like, there were literally probably 6 different conditions in the one crossing, and flat, wild, backwash, flat again, little bumps, then big bumps, and it was just such
the end of the run was like it was totally different than what we had in the middle. Also, it's like if you compare, I don't know, the Maliko and the middle of the run from Molokai to Oahu, or something like that. It's totally different, or even more. I would say compare the inside of the lagoon of the Maliko and and the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It's like the same.
It was wild. But that was a cool experience. And the Foiling magazine did a pretty cool Diogo wrote a pretty good write up on it as well, and some good photos. So I'll put a link on if you want to look more into that. But the reason I really wanted to get Fred on here was for his race that really raised some eyebrows last year, after, I guess, I don't want to call it a flop, but the tough conditions that the Crozon Foil Festival had for the downwind racing. Your race really blew it out of the water, just made it look like you showcased why we downwind foil in a racing situation. And the number of people that said to me, that was the best race I've ever been to. The organisation, the logistics, and so you did such a good job. And look, you got lucky with conditions too, because you need that as well. But the flexibility for, you create your own luck at the end of the day. And if the wind is on, you found the conditions, So I guess tell us about the St Tropez event.
The thing is, as we said, to be lucky, you need to put your position. You need to put yourself in a position to be lucky, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to be able to adapt ourselves to the condition. So the main thing about St Tropez event and about other events that I organize, like the Fort Boyard event, is the boat logistic. It's key for my event. It's not necessarily key for other events where you can have like a perfect coast run, that go along the. But with that boat logistic, we are able to use whatever direction of wind or whatever energy we can find outside, and really take the best of it. We don't have to limit ourselves to anything. We just have to go, and and to make that kind of stuff happen, it's a big, massive organization before the event. And and yeah, my goal for that kind of event is to like democratize the downwind while maintaining the high level competition identity as well. That's a bit of the and I want to say with that I will try to put the providers in the most exciting, let's say, condition possible, but maintaining a sufficient level of safety and accessibility also for those who not necessarily have the level of the best guys, So and to make that happen, it's a high level of commitment as organizer, and it's also money, sometimes. So and it's authorization also, because like every place is different, so there's places where you can do a bit basically what you want, and there's places where you can't do anything, and places like where we are that you can do things, but you have to work a lot for making it happen. So yeah, that's St Tropez. That's a bit the spirit, and yeah, I was so happy that everything came together. I have to say that if I compare to the past and to the big SUP races I organized in the past, I was not as stressed as I used to be, because the community is so incredible. I have so much friends and riders like pushing me behind and sending me like messages and showing support, that it actually went quite smooth for me. Plus, it's like when you prepare for a competition and you know that you're ready, it really put the stress away. And that's what happened to me. We knew what we were capable of, and we had everything ready for that. And when the condition showed up, we were just ready. And and everything went okay. And we were ready in case it was not going okay. We had other options, which is also taking the stress out. And then when I think when the riders came and they saw the club, let's say the scenery, but also the atmosphere, and they saw like the boats we had also, like all those like nice motor boats ready for them, all the setup. They say, oh, okay, they I think they are really trying hard to do something nice for us. So like, you have in front of you like true watermans, true athletes, seamen, people that know what they are doing. They know the ocean. So when you have the feeling that they are confident in you, it makes you taking the good decision, because you say, okay, I have those people, like they are confident in what I'm doing. I prepared that. I'm ready to do it. I have the right people behind, and let's go for it. And that's what happened. Everything came together, and yeah, super happy about it. And we had such a nice moment also, human moments.
The reports I heard back from the event was that it was just unbelievable. They felt like they're in a James Bond movie, loading up in this boat and just going to, they said it was a fantasy, to be able to do the boats that you had, and the comfort of the ride upwind, and the ability to take a spare foil in case conditions changed. You really thought through the whole process, and I think probably learnt from a few mistakes that some other events have made in the past. And even back to the SUP days, like you've learned a lot from that. And if I remember when back in my SUP racing days, if I was ever going to do a Euro Tour race, it was your one, because it was like pretty much guaranteed downwind conditions, going like 20 kilometers out into the middle of the ocean to jump off and straight downwind back to the finish, compared to other races where you've got a sort of crosswind and then you do a little turn and then it's like 2 kilometers of downwind and then a flat water finish, and it's not as enjoyable. You're prioritizing best conditions for the best riders, and I guess that's what gets people back, in my opinion.
Yeah, actually, the thing is also I would like the race to be exactly what I would like for to be for me, you know. So I really try to make a race where the rider can choose the foil they would usually use for their, let's say, everyday foiling, you know, and not choosing a foil just for a strategy point of view, but also for the fun and for the speed, you know, part of it. So which is why I really wanted to do a start in bumps and arrival in bumps. Just because we have so much events, and I'm not criticizing them. Huh? It's just a different thing, okay? But we have so much event where you have a flat water start or an arrival in the flat, which is good, but there's not lots of event where you have a start in the bump and arrival in the bump. And I wanted to offer that, you know, because that's what maybe I would also like to have for me. And again, it doesn't mean that I don't like the other kind of event, but it's just that it's something I want to offer to people. And not only because of what I said about the foil, like using your best foil or stuff like this, but also thinking about the last guys, you know. I want the last guys to have fun. And I want the last guys. And also what I learned with all those years organizing downwind is that the main safety you can give to organizing to organize downwind is to make sure the downwind is good and in the right direction. Because if the downwind is good and in the right direction, you will have the trouble you could have normally. You know, you start having troubles when people get burnt, you know, and because or tied because it's not perfectly aligned, you know, and that's what happened this day. There were people that maybe didn't have the liver to be there, but they made it, you know, and they had fun. And for me, that was as much as a victory at the first guy saying me, "Oh, that was incredible," you know. So yeah,
almost. To be honest, more important for the last person, because the first will probably have fun in almost anything, you know. Whereas, you know, as it gets, and this week we had a few good discussions over Madeira. And we disagree, you know, and that's fine.
Yeah,
good.
Exactly.
And I think
good.
You know, we spoke about you know, M12 and how they changed the course 23 to 24, and how I guess for me personally, for the M2O and the history that I've had doing the race on a SUP, and you know, obviously then on 2023, so then the change the course it isn't wrong, but to me it's a different race, which I think we all agree. And for a world championship event that is going to sell out months in advance, regardless of the course, I still think that they've made it too easy for a world championship event. You know, there's already races like M2M and Paddle-a-Mula that are more or less start in wind line, finish in wind line, you know, more or less. But again, it's not important. That the point is different opinions are fine, and it doesn't matter. There will be races regardless.
Yeah, exactly.
That have flat start, flat finish, and others that will be conditions pending, bumpy start, bumpy finish, and there's room for them all. And it's cool. It's exciting. You know, it's good.
Yeah. It's as I said before. I think you need a bit of everything, and yeah, Molokai is a special race because it's more, as we said, more an adventure as well. You know,
Yes.
For me personally, I see it more than as an adventure than as a world championship for me, and that's my personal opinion. It's more like something you do. Yeah, it's special. It's you cross the channel. It's special, and it's when you get to Oahu and you talk to the people and say, "Oh, what have you done yesterday?" "Oh, I crossed the channel." They're like, "Wow," you know. It's and that's when you understand it's a special thing to do. But yeah, I think we need every kind of race, and I totally get it. You know, the athletic part of it, and also the capacity of adaptation and the polyvalency that you need to have being a complete foiler, to be able to flat water, to arrive in pumping. But I still personally also like to have races where you see who is let's say the best on foil, like the fastest just on purely foil.
Mm-hmm.
If you take example what's his name from Maui, from Kate.
Oh, Kane Dewell?
Yeah, Kane. Sorry, Kane. we like lose the race of the Maui to Molokai because of that flat race area.
Yeah.
It's nothing against it, but it also show that he was maybe the fastest that day on foil,
Yes.
And that's where we need different kind of races,
Yeah, and I think you nailed it earlier when you were saying when you don't have to choose a foil for strategy, and that's where I guess we differ a bit. I think there are enough races, and I hope that there will be enough races like you run that we have that bit covered, point A to point B, win line to win line. Beautiful. That's going to grow the sport.
Yeah.
The top guys, I feel like a bit of strategy is exciting, and having one or two people racing the whole race like this, it's exciting. But having one person like 23 when Edo overtook Oscar and I, and then came down, and it became who's going to win? It's a battle in the upwind flat.
Yeah, but don't you think in any case there will always be strategy, because if it's purely on foil and there's not like a flat water, in any case you will have strategy to choose. Maybe you will choose an even smaller foil. Maybe you will use even more your let's say your body to make it work. So in any case it will be really competitive, and in any case it will be really strategic, but on the same time there will be people that will enjoy. So that's why for me it's interesting to have that kind of stuff as well. If you compare to, let's say, the windsurfing tour or even the surf tour, you have events where it's fully onshore and ugly, and you have to make the best of those ugly conditions. And on the same time, you have events where it's like side off, perfect waves, long waves, perfect. I think, it's in any case, I think it makes more sense to have a tour than just a one world championship.
No, I totally agree with you there. I think it's most important that we have a variety of conditions, which is exactly why, if there's going to be one event, if there's going to be one, then it needs to be multiple conditions, which is what 23 was, and 24 was epic. It was, and the conditions changed a bit, but it was as straight down the barrel as I've ever had. Yeah,
really good.
Which was, and the purist to me is like, well, that's awesome. That's like, and Edo even asked me, he's like, did you prefer 23 or 24? I was like, look, I won in 23, but the race was fun in 24. So,
I crossed my finger that 25 is the same as 24, actually. Because 23 was quite tough. But
23 was tough for sure. And I think, I think we all hope we get the best conditions possible, and I'm for sure. But it's training for all conditions, and I think you nailed it. Having a variety of conditions across multiple events is the best way to crown a world champion. But for now, in the infancy of downwind foiling, I think M2O is a good event, and it's
of course.
It's an awesome event.
But just I want to reflect also on something. Look at how hard it is for the European guys to adapt themselves to the Pacific condition, like Australia or Molokai or whatever. They come to Europe and they come to Hawaii, and they are a bit lost, because it's a different energy. It's a different kind of sea, okay? But when you see how hard it is for the Hawaiian to adapt to Crozon, to condition like Crozon, to condition like we have in Europe, I think that says something, because we discovered this year in Crozon that there's really, really fast guys in Europe that are not competing in the Molokai because maybe for budget thing and whatever. But that's where I think if you want to see with the best, you need a proper tour with lots of different conditions. Which is, again, I don't think you can rely on only one event, because it's like it's a different sport, I would say. Molokai for me is a different sport than what you would do in Europe, especially in the Mediterranean, where it can be so easy, So
no, I totally
it's easy and hard. It's easy and hard because look at the Hawaiian that came in Crozon, they were a bit lost. Exactly the same that when we Europeans go to Hawaii,
and I guess they're probably the two most extreme examples, Crozon and M2O. They couldn't have been in starker contrast, and that's but this is the thing that I guess I harp on a lot. Like, downwind foiling is everything, point A to point B, and like I honestly, truly, wholeheartedly believe that for some locations, wind strength and direction actually isn't as important as the energy in the water.
You said that, and I totally agreed. And the problem is there's area where there's no energy.
Exactly, and that's exactly right. That's what I say in some locations, because
I think it is really hard to understand for somebody that that is like raised and born in Hawaii. There's actually see where there's no energy in the water. Yes, it's possible.
And I think it comes down to the fetch of the length of the duration and distance that the wind has been blowing, and of course, for us to go from point A to point B, it's much easier with the swell and the wind behind us. But sometimes the wind can be across and the swell can be across the other way, and it's easier to go with the swell and have the wind across or even head on than it is to go with the wind, because the wind is going hasn't had enough time to create energy. I did a run the other day on a big foil, but it was out and back, and there was a really big short period 3 to 4 foot north swell, and then a southwest wind. And I sort of thought, okay, I'll see how far upwind I can go, then I'll turn around and come downwind. I had a better time with the wind in my face than I did with the wind at my back, because the swell was such a short period that it was more enjoyable going with the swells than it was going with the wind that hadn't been blowing for long enough. It was actually it was pumping with the wind at your back or surfing with the wind in your face, which for a lot of people, they don't have conditions like this, You wouldn't. It'd be very difficult to get that in a lake that was 10-kilometer lake. It'd be very difficult to have those same conditions, if possible. But the wind would change very quick.
No, it's incredible. Actually, it's really incredible. If you look back 7 years after, it's incredible to think that we can actually not use the wind. Like at all, and just use that energy and jump from one bump to the other and keep on going. And the wind is more an issue if it's in front of you. I mean, normally, not in the case of the run you said, but it's incredible. It's everything up and under, and it's but again, when you have no energy, it's complicated.
And that's. I think I sort of ruffled a few feathers when I said the Crozon Foil Fest was like the future of downwind foiling. I didn't mean that that's what we want, but I meant that if we're going to have a world championship, a proper tour, we need to include all conditions. And obviously we don't want conditions, but if you want events to run, then you're going to get unlucky every now and then. And as a pro rider, to have the skills and the understanding of riding all different conditions, all different foils, I think it's a really important thing. And one thing that I've really noticed, especially in the last couple of years, that it's like an ego thing. People want to ride the smallest possible foil because it's like showing status. A small foil obviously means you can go faster sometimes, but sometimes using a big foil is more efficient and sometimes faster too.
Exactly, and you go faster at the end of the day in some conditions.
Clement posted something very interesting, I think, at the end of Crozon, and he was like, having the being able to ride all different foils in all different conditions. You prefer to have a race happen than the race cancelled.
Of course.
And
especially because he's so good in those conditions, you know. Also, he trained for those kind of. There's only one thing that I personally, that's my philosophy as an organizer. I would rather do one good race in, let's say, average to good condition than two races if one of them is not good enough. You know, that's my philosophy. For example, the multiple race into the same event is a thing that I think it's quite good because we, especially in Europe, we need lots of time to have a waiting period. So we need like to cover this waiting period with some races. But I would never do a race for the sake of doing the race. I would rather prefer doing a really good one. And if the conditions are looking shitty, I will maybe organize a funny race or stuff like this than you know, having the same amount of points for 35 kilometers in crazy good condition than 6 kilometers in 5 knots, you know, like you know what I mean. So
I know what you're saying.
It's also that's my way of seeing the things. That's my philosophy.
Yeah, I think quality over quantity, right? Like it's
yes, basically. And there's also other part of the sport that we can explore. You know, we organized in St Tropez relay and a flat water contest. And actually, I was not sure people would like it, and they loved it. I'm talking about the rider, not the spectators. The spectator loved it, but the racers as well, because they figure out lots of things with their equipment. It was a good moment of sharing between them. And now this weekend for the Madeira event, they did the same thing. And it was really cool to see. And they really loved it. So you don't have to, in my opinion, you don't have to do race for because you have to do race. You know, you have to wait for the good condition. If you are in places like Hawaii where it's always good, then it's all good. But if you're in Europe and one day is really good and the other one is really shitty, why pushing so much? Maybe it doesn't worth it, but it's my opinion.
Yeah, I think there's lots of different opinions out there, but I think the majority of people would agree. Yeah, there's no point having equal weighting on different conditions. You know, I think if there's a good day of racing, we all want to race in good conditions. So, like, that's should be of higher priority or higher weighting, or it should count for more. I think.
Yeah, I think it's also maintaining a kind of a standard, no, for the race, and
and I think in some places, it's easier to do that, and in other places, I know that like here, and the reason I'm always, you know, I guess trying to lower the standard, so to speak, is because I'd prefer a race to happen locally than not at all. And
absolutely.
Here in Australia, they only
I also agree with that.
1 day window, you know, so it's like, well, I'd prefer to be racing 20 people in 5 knots than no race happening at all. But ideally, I'd want to race 100 people in 20 knots, you know, and but I think as the sport evolves, and you know, we've even seen it in stand-up, I think, you know, as the sport evolves, more people are going to be racing in lighter conditions if they're really into racing, you know, and the ones that aren't really into racing are just going to wait for those perfect days, and they might enter those perfect events, but the racing is not really, it's not as important for them. And I think we're already seeing that. Like some people, the really competitive people, come on, probably myself, are like, we'll race in anything. And then the others, if it's not 15 knots, I'm not going, you know, and I think that's okay.
I think it's key to always think about the last guys of the race, you know, even if you can't make the race for them, you have to make it for the top guys. But I have a little bit of thinking about what's happening behind. I think it's really important because those people who are behind are the ones that are buying material, that are, you know, make the sport growing, bringing a friend of them into the sport. And yeah, we have to find the compromise. But coming back to what you were saying before, I do agree that it's better to run in poor condition than not run at all. That's for sure, you know.
Yeah.
But if you can take the best of a waiting period, I think it's better.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think we agree on that for sure. And we agree on a lot of things. I think it's just different standpoints. You're looking at everyone and I'm looking at probably just the pointy end, which is, you know, that's tough. And
and like this weekend, for example, the Meg Glider event.
Let's talk about that. Yeah.
They were really poor condition the first day. It was really, really light and really small shop. It was really physical. That was for the first race. And the second race was actually much better. I think it was quite nice. And at the end of the event, like the reaction of the people, because I was on the WhatsApp group, is that the reaction that I like is, in any case, we learned a lot, you know, and that's cool. That's because I think like, on the first race, I know people like friends of mine that struggled so much, but they learn from it and they take the positive part of it. So it's all good, but it that won't work with everyone. You know, that won't work. Like maybe there will be a point where some people will say, hey, if it's a pure pumping event, I'm not coming. You know, and that's we have to find that balance.
Yeah, which is funny you say that, because I feel the direction we could be going with wind line to wind line, good conditions can make it more of a pumping race than flat, wind, flat, because the strategy means in the middle, because you need...
you will rest.
Yeah, you have to rest because you have to use a big foil for the start. And then in the middle, you can't pump the whole way because...
Are you doing it? Are you resting in the middle?
Resting more than so put it this way, I rested more in 23 M2O than I did in 24 M2O. It was more physical in 24, even though the conditions were better, which is crazy to say, right? Like we paddled to the finish in 23. And this is where I get a little torn, because obviously, you know, the flat start is flat, and that no one likes a flat water start because it probably means paddling on your stomach, paddling standing up, or serious energy exertion to get up on foil and stay on foil. Likewise, the flat water finish, headwind, that's not fun, you know. But the middle 50 kilometers with a small foil, ask Edo, you know, it's excruciatingly painful because you're essentially using a foil so small so you can go over bump. Basically, what the top guys are doing is they're using foils that go faster than the conditions.
Yes.
And if you're going fast in the conditions, you're not actually getting much energy from the conditions. So you're essentially, it's closer to a flat water pump than you would ever believe because of, you know, so by adding in a more difficult start, it actually makes a more easy race for the top guys anyway, which doesn't really make sense, but it's more surfing and less pumping. But it's a funny one, you know.
It's a funny one.
No matter what,
maybe
we'll be pushing the limits is the most important thing. Yeah. Regardless.
It's really, really interesting what you're saying. I really like. It's good. It's good insight for a pure elite guy, and I think that's super interesting. Maybe as I see the things, there will be no rest, even if there is a flat water start or a flat water arrival at some point. You know, because the guy will be so fit, so prepared that they will never stop. You know, they will be like small rabbits the whole way. So I don't know, but
I think like what you say, it's whatever's dished up will race. I guess is the most important thing, and the events, it's up to them to decide the course, not the riders. But I think the clarity of this is the course, this is what we're doing, and this is why is important. And yeah, I'm not going to lie, like 24 was a shock to me that, you know, 2 months out from the start, they said, oh, we're starting here and finishing here. It's a different race now. I've trained for the last year and I've been training for the wrong thing. That's the problem, really. Yeah.
Yeah, even like that, I hope they do the same thing for this year. But
Even now, it's not clear what the course is. I spoke to the organisers the other day, and they want to do the right thing by their competitors, but they don't know what the right thing is. You know, they don't know.
I have the feeling that most of the people want to be in the wind line, but
yeah, I agree.
That.
Yeah, I agree too. And I think, like I said, I'd do it in anything, and I'm happy to race in everything. But it's interestingly, the safety is a big thing, and starting in the wind line makes it last year less safe than starting in the flat from the year before, because of going so fast from the very beginning is for escort, but for the number of escort boats.
There's also one thing that as we talk from a point of view of a guy that is in front, which is your case, let's talk about the point of view of the guy who is a bit behind, like me. Actually, this year I did a really good start. I was going well, and I had those boat issues after, which was a nightmare. But nothing that can be compared with the nightmare the year before, where you had to do that flat start, and on top of that, there were like hundreds of boats going in front of you, with crossing swells. With, let's say that this year you could escape, but the year before you could not escape. You were making it. If you were not making it, you were losing half an hour.
Yeah.
So that's also one thing you have to be taken in consideration. If you are an average racer, it actually, it's like another race. Where if the start is in the wind line, you have a chance to recover from your mistake. You have a chance to make things happen after. In the flat start is you make it or you're not making it until only if you're an elite man you can make it, which Edo did that. He recovered from not making the flat water. He didn't make it to the wind line really, and still finished third place. But yeah, the case of the most of the people is that they don't really recover from that.
Yeah, so, I totally agree, and I think 23 was pretty rare in the case that the wind was light, but also the wind was quite east. So so normally it's more northeast and sort of comes down, and you get bumps after 1.5, 2 kilometers. 23 was east, so it was like more 3, 4, maybe. I had a look the other day. It was pretty much 5 kilometers. I
remember being after 20 kilometers and saying, but this is not a downwind. I was like from an European point of view, and the downwind we're used to have, which are not always good, I'm far from it, but we are used to different kind of stuff, and that was I had to adapt to this and say no, it's a downwind. It's just you're not prepared for that, but it's a downwind, But the first year I was like in the middle saying, but this is not a downwind. I could go that way if I wanted,
Yeah. Well, funny you say that, because to me, in like the Hawaii races, it's always been, Paddle-a-Mua, M2M, Olokai, all the like their downwind races. M2O is a standalone. It's an ocean race, because on the foil, as I said before, it's much easier. But the direction isn't even the right direction for a downwind event. And on a foil, it makes it seem like it's easier than what it is because the angles that we can cut. But on an SUP or an outrigger or a paddleboard, you're literally you're turning right the whole time to try to make the island. It's unbelievable. On the foil, it is a dream. It doesn't get any easier, So like M2O to me, this is the issue. M2O is not a downwind race. It's an ocean race. M2M is a downwind race. And that's where I get hung up, I guess, on it, because they're making it a downwind race. Yeah.
Depending of the year as well, because I think last year was a real downwind. This year was a real downwind. It was like last year. 2024 was really, it was easier.
Well, it was the first time in probably 10 years of racing that M2O was more fun than M2M.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it was getting better, which is normally not the case. It's getting worse. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
it was getting better, and
Yeah. Which,
unbelievable.
look, is that a bad thing? For majority of people, no, it's a great thing. The race has become more enjoyable. And I think that's what I always got to remember. It's like, well, it's a good thing. And it's super exciting. It's just, it's the expectation management. I expected this, but I got this. And look, like Ed asked, did you have more fun 23 or 24? Yeah, 24 was a crazy good race. We had great conditions. We had a great start. We had a great finish. We will probably never get conditions that good again. Yeah, honestly, I think that was about as good as it can get.
Yeah.
Especially with the tide going in. All the local boys were like, that never happens. We got very lucky. It should have been much smaller at the finish, and it wasn't. So
yeah,
good year.
Yeah, the finish was okay as well. I was expecting something crazy hard, and it was okay.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we talk about the plans you have coming up for this year? I know your event is in early October, and I can't make it, but I've made a promise to you that I'm going to try and make it. I'm going to do my best to make it for next year, 26. But yeah, what are you doing? Hawaii again? Some races like Barcelona's coming up.
Yeah. The next one is Barcelona, the Barcelona event organized by Xavi Masdeval. I think we're gonna be there will be lots of people from Europe attending the event. I think all the Spanish guy will be there.
I know some Australians going. I know that the code teams. There's like 3 or 4 from Australia coming. So
yeah, that's great. Yeah. It would be European international, let's say, and then after that I have some SUP race events that I am covering as a race director around Spain and France. And then I'm going back to Hawaii. I was not supposed to go back, and I had some help with the money, so I will be able to make it this year. And my plan is to stay more time in Oahu this year. I really would like to discover also some downwind that I've never done. My dream is to do the one in Kauai. So if you have a plan for me, I'm all in.
I've never been to Kauai, but I'd love to do that race over there. Yeah,
I would like to do that one, and doing the 4 events in Hawaii, and then after when I come back, I have a SUP race event also in France that I am organizing. I'm race director, which is part of the Euro Tour, and then I have Fort Boyard Challenge, which is more a SUP race event, but it's open to the foilers, and it's the same concept. It's a different concept because it's just one boat, but really big, and I can have 150 people on it with all the SUP race and all the foils on board. So it's going to be an interesting one, and just 2 days after is the St Tropez event, so it's gonna be
that's a busy month, a busy week.
Yeah, it's gonna be really busy, but I'm gonna prepare everything like long before, so I think it's gonna be okay. And this year events is looking good. I know lots of people will come, and we are ready for that. We are ready to send more than 100 people on the water with a boat logistic if we need to. We are working on also special things like trying to have like hydrogen kind of boat, like environment friendly and stuff like this. We would like also to have some spectators on the water with boats for the spectators, of course, separate from the race, but that are also part of it, and it's not only a race that is like 10 kilometers out and nobody sees it, so working on stuff like this, and working hard to do really nice events this year, and and receiving lots of support for that. So we're really motivated. We really want to do something nice and make sure people come and feel also the energy, the atmosphere, and enjoy the scenery also, which is beautiful. It's a natural park. We are basically racing in natural parks, So it's all nature. It's all it's beautiful there. So, which is also I think it's also part of why people so much enjoy that. I could see the faces of the guys when we went out from the bay. And the high will just popped up, they're like, wow, what is this? Wow. The bumps, of course, the wind, but also the scenery. It's beautiful. So, and like last year, we're ready to go wherever it will be good. And the plan is to do 2 races max, okay? During it's a 6 days of waiting period. We are doing 2 races max, and we're going to do a foil assist division also. Not on the same day than the race on itself. Like this, we are
really
people that do both things. Exactly, and we're going to do also other activity, the relay, the flat water contest, and stuff like this. And the goal would be to have at least one of the race which is around 40k.
Nice.
So like last year we had a 36k downwinder, and that the goal is to do basically the same. Last year we had a 36 and a 10. If we could have 236, I would be happy. For example, something like that. Yeah. That's the goal. Like quality over quantity, as you said.
Yeah. No, I think that's good, and I think having that information out, letting people know is the step towards like making it, a really good event, like professional, and creating a good foundation for people to train towards and work on. And I love that, ball assist, relay, flat water. I think one thing that I'm really excited that we're going to trial over here in Australia for the Point Plumber Foil Fest is like a surf race. So you can like almost like slalom kind of style, and you got to like catch a wave, back out round a can, then back up to the top of the wave, and then back down. And I think like you mentioned, getting the spectators involved is going to be a really important part of growing the sport. And downwind, no matter how you sell it, it's a few dots out to sea. It's very difficult to get excited about it from land, but being out there watching it, that's pretty cool. But I think like you mentioned, like the flat water race that they did in the Med Gliders, and they're going to Crozon, the dock start race event with the most the best product that was sort of shown, and people involved, people watching was super pumped by that. And I think that's more like that. I think is going to grow the sport. But the downwind, I think, it's for the purists, and it's a huge part of it. It's the pinnacle, but it's very hard to make something that looks and feels as good as the stuff that's can be seen, in a course race, I guess is the best way to put it. Yeah. So that's exciting. The more formats, the better. And I think, as you said, you cover the whole spectrum of foiling, not just, one little part. And I think, as more events come up, there's going to be more formats, more conditions, more specialized, competitors and like pro riders. And it's going to be, I really think we're just starting to really open up foil racing. And I think foil racing is the key, because downwind foiling racing is just one part. There's flat water, there's mixed conditions, course race, and then there's downwind. And, I for one have always been, if I have a choice, which I want to do, downwind is the pinnacle. But the other ones are going to have their place, I think. And the more races and event organisers like yourself that open it up to spectators, to sponsors, to riders, it's just opportunity, right? It's so good. It's exciting.
The idea here also is we're working in close relation with Amaury from the Crozon Foil Festival. He's a really good friend of mine. He's my associate. So we are trying to do something together, and for example, Crozon will be more focused in the surf foiling and in the pump foiling this year. I will still have downwind foiling as well, but the focus will be more on those things rather than me. I will not do pump foiling. I will not do surf foiling or nothing like this. I will really focus on the downwind foiling and on everything that you can do with a SUP foil, you know. So it's good because I think we are like complementing each other, and so the thing I want to say here is that the event will be held from the 7th to the 12th of October. I'm talking St Tropez, from the 7th to the 12th, and the Crozon will be from the 14th to the 19th. Okay, so there will be at minimum 1 day to travel and 1 day to recover or something like this, and we will try as much as we can during the St Tropez event to make sure that if the conditions are on Saturday, everybody is free on the Sunday. They can go earlier to Crozon. So that's really the dynamic we are creating.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's good planning. Good that you're friends and you're organising it that way. And I like that it's, you know, this event is more towards this and this event is more towards that. And like I said, clarity, transparency, information out there early is key, which is what I'm trying to do here and try to help spread the word. So really
it's harder to make everything come together, but that's the way we have to do it. To be honest, I would love to have another third event at some point in Europe. You know, I'm always thinking about you guys, you know, from the other side, or I'm really happy when I go to Hawaii to be able to do like 3 or 4 races. It's and I would like the same to happen in the future in Europe. So I think there's a couple of ideas for a third race, but that would be the goal in the future. To have that dynamic.
Yeah, I think I guess the best example of that in Australia is the West Coast or West Coast downwinder, but there's 5 races in like 2 weeks. You know, so it's in Perth in the end of November they have 3 Sunset Surf Ski Series, which is just like an afternoon race, 12 kilometers, and then 2 long ones, West Coast Downwinder, which is just under 30 Ks, and I think it's 26, and then the Doctor, which is 28. And the Doctor used to be the big one, but foils haven't been allowed the last few years. But there's stay tuned, but there should be. They're looking to include foils basically after the big showing that we had last year. So definitely want to invite all the Europeans and North Americans and anyone who wants to come to Australia for some downwind racing. That's probably the one in Australia to get, like you mentioned, a short period of time with lots of racing in.
And when is that, James? When and
November where? 15 to 30, more or less.
15 to 30 of which month? Sorry,
November.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's later in the year, so like a month after Crozon.
Okay.
And,
Good. And what are the distance in between events there?
The timing?
Yeah. No, I mean the distance between one location and the other.
It's all in the same place. It's all in Perth.
Yeah, great.
So it's literally they're all they're surf ski races, and it's been going for years. I used to do it on the SUP, and then transitioned to the foil, and friends have been doing on the surf ski, then SUP, and now foil, and it's like Christmas. It's the same time every year. It's like always. It's almost like clockwork. The wind that time of year. The only issue can be the seaweed. Sometimes we get like this ribbon weed that can be, can ruin it. But out of 5 races, you'll get at least one good one. So it's and even the conditions in between races. It's I think it's you don't wait more than 2 or 3 days between races. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Thursday, Saturday again. So it's perfect. It's perfect. Busy, Yeah,
exactly. That you have to make things easy for the people. Like they go from outside, and that's what I want to do. Also, that's really. I mean, I won't say that Crozon is close from St Tropez, but it's not impossible. You know, it's 500 kilometers. There's good. Yeah, you can go by plane, you can go by road, you can go by train. You can.
Transport's good in Europe.
Yeah.
No, well, thanks so much, Fred, for the time, and I'm excited to. I think we're both excited to see downwind foiling or foil racing continue to grow. And do you want to leave people with anything in particular? Little sign off from yourself.
Yeah. Sorry.
Do you want to like sign off? Like have a little like just something you want to leave people with? You know, that are listening.
Yeah. No. Just reflecting on the things that I lived the last 3 years was thanks to downwind foiling. I mean, there were like two parts. One part which was I was alone with myself learning a sport that was impossible and talking to the seagulls and to to the fish and suddenly going to Hawaii and meeting like hundreds of people that are practicing the same sport than me and discovering like a really nice community which I'm learning from and which I think I take lots of energy from that as well. And I think everyone involved in downwind foiling, I think, could say the same thing than me. It's really, really a cool community, and I hope it stay like this. And I hope we are able to maintain that spirit and to maintain, the fact that yes, we are competing. Yes, there's sponsors. Yes, but don't try to go too fast and to make something that we maybe don't want it to be. You know, and I think the only way is to keep the community together. For maybe with events or maybe like stalking like we're doing now and. Keeping that spirit because
I totally agree. I think to me the races aren't so much we're not there for the competition, we're there for the camaraderie, and it's lots of people meeting up. We've all gone through the same pain or the training or whatever it is to get there, and it's a celebration of the sport that we love, and the competition's a part of it. But at the end of the day, competition isn't above it. It's about celebrating what we love, what we love to do, and doing it with like-minded people. Because your best mates, even if you live far away, it's your best friends are the ones that are doing similar things to you. So, the reason we've kept in touch is because we both love downwind foiling. We love to share the stories, and
exactly
that's what's important.
Exactly, and it's because it's an adventure on top of being just it's an adventure and a human adventure on top of being just a race. And honestly. I've been really, really involved in the SUP race world and as an organizer and a competitor. And I had the feeling we lost a bit that at some point. I've been in the pioneering moment of the SUP race and I saw how it went. And I remember like there was a point in the Euro Tour where we were all partying after, and there was like that spirit that I really loved. And I think we kind of lose that, and it's really easy to lose it. And I would really love that we can maintain that spirit with the downwind foiling. I think we have everything to do it because we have great communities. You in Australia, here in Europe, the Hawaiians, and more people, that are coming. There's a community in Greece, there's a community, and nice people, so hopefully it stay like this.
Yeah, I think probably it'd be another topic for a different one, but I think less emphasis on the race and more on the community is important, and capturing that surf style that I think the flow show, the Voyagers are trying to. I think it could be the key. Like I don't really agree with the subjective nature of the judging, which it's a minor detail, but I think if we can create hard numbers for maximum distance or whatever it is and maximum speed, I think that could be a really cool way to not replace what we have, but to like preserve that sense of community. And it'd be a different winner every event because it doesn't matter, it's about max speed or best average speed, but combined with the best distance, most distance rather than shortest. I think that could be the key. I sort of mentioned a little in previous podcasts, like talking like king of the cutback sort of style, where we celebrate surfing as well as speed. I think that's super important.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think we have to represent in an event also, not only, but also what people are doing for when they are free, when they're free riding, and I think the free rider that I know tons of people around here that are really good. They never compete, never, and they're really, really, really good. But they don't, that's not something they don't feel that that's for them.
Exactly.
And to have that kind of event, I think it's really interesting, and I should think myself to maybe add something like this.
I'll talk to you about it for sure. We'll maybe do another one and sort of share it. I think there's a lot of scope for it, and I think it'd be a really good way to, as we said, preserve that community and keep the fun in it, because this is my issue with 24 was not only the course, but it was the beginning of something that was not like racing. Edo said it himself. He didn't have fun doing the race. It was purely physical. And that's, to me, alarm bells went off in my head. I'm like, oh no, we're losing what we all love, and it's becoming a marathon run rather than, like the adventure.
Yes.
So, that's time for discussion for another time. But thanks so much for coming on, Fred. Really appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to catching you again soon.
Thanks a lot, James. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
Hi, man. See you soon.
See you soon.